Hi, I'm back. So continuing the conversation. Yeah, when Deanna found out that our biological dad didn't have money, that he was a poor fella, she didn't want anything else to do with him. She didn't like him after that. And what she did is, once she formed her opinion about that, she made sure that I knew that I was forbidden to have anything to do with him either. So she made it perfectly clear back in, what was it, like 92? She made it perfectly clear to me that I was, on no uncertain terms, I was not allowed to have anything to do with my biological father. That was because I had had Al and Lynn, our biological father and his soon-to-be wife. I had them over to spend the night with me at my apartment when I lived on cottage when my kids were real little. They spent the night. They actually slept in our beds and spent the night with me. And then we got up in the morning and took Lynn to work. And Al stayed after. And he stayed with me in the apartment. And I cooked him breakfast. I cooked him biscuits and gravy and eggs. This was after I had both of my kids and 2 divorces, 2 marriages, 2 divorces. And my older sister is telling me on no uncertain terms after I passed this along to her that I did that I was not to have anything else to do with him. And of course, what you got here is this real commanding tone, this demanding tone. You are not to have anything to do with him. So like I said earlier, this pattern in her behavior. So whenever Deanna would act like that, I just didn't want anything else to do with her. So it would be years that I wouldn't speak to her. I just didn't have any desire to speak to her. Because it's like I wasn't allowed to have my own opinions, my own mind on anything. And what I've come to conclude here, what I have come to realize is that I grew up with this. I grew up with this older sister who commanded all of my opinions. When she decided she wanted me to start smoking cigarettes, back when I guess I was in junior high, and I finally gave in to it because she turned my friends against me and she was calling me names and calling me a narc and all this. And I was very impressionable. I had just found out a couple of years before that. I'd had my life turned upside down, realizing that this man that I thought was my real dad all those years, the first 10 years of my life, he wasn't my real dad. And my mind is still trying to sort that out. I'm trying to make some sense of that. Because we were told, I was told that our real dad, Al, was a loser. From the very second that I was told about him having this car accident and that he used to beat our mother and then that he used to beat our brother when he was little, at like 5, 6 years old, that told me that I was a loser too. What's funny about that is that a few years later, when the 80s roll around, I would read in magazines. Whenever I was out and I was getting my car fixed or whatever, I'd read the magazines sitting in these different places. So I got outside sources, information to stay in the know somehow. Psychology, to try to gain understanding. And I found that it's best for parents to not speak abusively of their ex-husbands or wives to the children, because bam, it'll give the child a negative opinion of their self. It's not mentally healthy for parents to do that with the absent parent. Maybe back in the 70s they didn't know that yet. Maybe back in the 60s and 70s adults weren't aware of that yet. I believe that it emotionally damaged 3 of us kids, but evidently it didn't do anything to Deanna. Now keep in mind, my first 10 years of life, I did not know that there was another dad. So when I read information like this, I was determined not to do that to my children. I wasn't going to sit there and talk bad about them. And it's very hard not to talk bad about your exes, especially when your exes are as bad as the ones I had. Totally different story that I'm not going to get into right now. But Deanna having this commanding tone with me, always telling me exactly how I had to look at things, because she was always right. Deanna was always right. No matter what, Deanna was right. And the rest of the planet was wrong. You know, we used to think that Janet was like that. She was always Miss Know-It-All. The person who was Miss Know-It-All was Deanna. Always. Nobody else had the right to an opinion. You had to submit to her opinion. Then came religion. When you've got a narcissist, a person with narcissistic patterns of behavior coupled with religion, you've got a real toxic person. Because what they do is they will look for anything they can to put you down. Anything they can dig up to try to put you down. And what they'll do is they'll sit down and pretend to be your friend, talking to you. They'll get you to talk about things, private, personal things, and then they'll turn around and tell other people behind your back to get them to have an unfavorable opinion of you, so that they can gather their little flock of followers and turn them against you. Deanna's problem with me was that I accepted the Jehovah's Witness religion. The thing is, like I said on my last video, Deanna would tell me when we were in high school, when the Jehovah's Witnesses come around, because they were walking up the street, and she told me, "You hide behind the chair, you don't answer the door." I don't know if that happened more than once, but when Deanna found her Southern Baptist beliefs, I was still living at home at the time. She flipped overnight. She did a 180-degree turn. She quit smoking. She quit smoking pot. She quit drinking. I have questioned whether she ever even did any of those things. She might have smoked. But whether or not she actually inhaled with pot, I don't know. I don't think so, because she never used to talk about it. She turned from that lifestyle and went into religion, and on a daily basis, it seemed, it was nothing but hammering me over the head about getting saved, about getting right with Jesus. It was about, you're living in sin. You're going to go to hell. Fire and damnation. You know how it is. You know how those Southern Baptists are. And it just gets downright aggravating. I didn't want to hear about it. I didn't want it. I wasn't interested in it. You know, what I needed was to be left alone. I needed private time. I needed to be just isolated so that I could sort my thinking out. What needed to happen was she needed to leave home before I did, so that I could find myself. I was lost. You know, I had already gotten too far behind in school to get good grades, but I did manage to graduate with the scum of my teeth. And I only graduated because she graduated. But when Deanna found her Jesus, she also stepped into a nice new car. It was a black 78 Camaro. And from that time on, Deanna decided that she was just Miss La-Ti-Da. But the thing about that is that she left me behind in the dust. Like burning them off and leaving the dust in my face. She led me down the wrong path. And she even encouraged it. She was encourageable. Led me down that path and walked down that path with me. Tried to get me to go as far down that bad, wrong path as possible. Smoking pot, smoking cigarettes, dropping acid, smoking PCP, getting involved in immorality with Bobby. And then she started preaching her Jesus bullshit, telling me that I had to change and I had to flip like she did and turn to Jesus. I'm telling you, that made me mad as hell, because she would not fucking back off. So one day she decided she's going to sit on my back. I'm going to start on that in my next video. Hang with me, okay?